Welcome to this lesson on observational drawing using ink and a resist technique with white wax crayon. My students in grade 4 like to use this lesson when we're doing a monochromatic unit, and our focus on this unit, elements of art, we look at line, shape, and value. We key in on our observational skills by doing observational drawings of the fish, and we learn about what a resist is as an art technique. My students, for this lesson, require very few materials. We need some ink. This is just Chinese ink, a paintbrush, an ink pen, and a little dish with some ink in it, as well as some water to pull the ink onto the fish and to give us some value. So to start off with, when we're doing this, we have to talk about observations and looking very, very carefully. When I do this, I have a variety of ways of the students looking at fish. Sometimes, if time permits, or if my classes are all grouped together around the same few days, I bring in real fish from the market and I put them on the table, and the students can actually look at the real fish, and that gives them a real sense of observational skills. I usually have my students stand when they're doing this so that they can stand up and look down at it and see it very clearly. If I don't have any real fish for the students to look at from the market, I simply get pictures and I print them out. And it can be in black and white because we're working in black and white, and what we want to focus on is the values, looking where the light is and where the dark areas are. The other option I have is simply going onto the internet, typing in tropical fish, and having my students sketch from their iPads in the classroom, looking at different tropical fish, or any fish at all actually. The key is that they're looking at the shapes. So when I first start out, I like to use A2 paper for this. It's nice and big, it gives us a bigger scope. For my sample, I'm just using A3 paper. I start off and we talk about how we're going to fit the fish onto our page. I often will have them sketch it out with their hands, think about where does it start, where does it finish, go on to their page and do the same thing. Where does it start, where should it finish, so that when they get their pencil and start to sketch it, they know exactly where it should be going. We don't want to have a small fish like this in the middle of a big page. So we want to get that perspective right. Then we talk about the lines. How do I sketch this fish? Well, let's break it down into lines. Let's look at, where does this line, oh, it goes up, and then it kind of comes across straight a little bit. Oh, it starts going down, so we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to come up a bit, come across straight, and then bring it down. So once we have it sketched, and we have our basic shape on here, then we want to go in and we want to put our finer details. So we want to make sure we have the head separation. On the fish, it usually has a darker area and a lighter area, so we're going to draw a line down the middle so we can get our darker scales up there. I tell the students every single line that we draw on here, we're going to have to outline later in black ink. So we know there's lots and lots and lots of scales. It's better if you don't do every single one of them. So when I put the scales on, I add a few. If I know it's darker up here, I'll do more up here, and I'll do fewer scales down below. I always tell them the eye is very key to make their fish come alive. Look very carefully at the eye. Spend some time around the face looking at all those details and all those creases and lines that are in there. Those will be key to bring their fish to life. Once they have their fish sketched, then what we want to do is we want to look for the value. We want to look and see where the light and the dark areas are. And in doing that, when we see some lighter spots, we're going to go in with our white resist crayon, and we're going to put in some white areas. Now you can't see that going on, but anywhere where I see it a little bit lighter, I'm going to put some white resist in there. I always tell them to put a little bit around the eye because we don't want the eye to end up just being black. We want some light hitting the eye in there. So I go in and I put some resist in there. When I have my resist done, that's when I start using the ink, and we're going to ink every single line. I'm going to put some resist in this one. And when we ink, we use our Chinese ink pen. We have to dip it in, and the students have to be patient. I tell them it takes a long time to go and keep dipping back and forth. The final results, they'll be very pleased with. Obviously, if we have an area that's darker, we want to have more ink to show more value. So anywhere where we have lines, we are going to continue and to ink all of those spots. Okay? Now, I'm going to stop there. I will keep going. The last and final step is once you have everything inked, you're going to take your paintbrush. And you dip a little bit of water in here. What we're going to do is we're going to pull that ink from there, and we're going to pull it onto our fish. Now, I tell my students, I like to pull from the front of the fish all the way to the back of the fish, going in one direction. And whoops, because it's on my chart paper here, it's dripping a bit. Now you can see here I have the resist, so I'm going to go over that area, and anywhere where the ink and the water hits the wax crayon, it will resist it, which is what we want. So when we're finished, we're going to have lighter areas and darker areas. And where we've had more ink, it will show that as well. So if I can show you some samples that have been finished by grade 4 students, we can take a look. And you can see the variety of fish that they've drawn, how we have value. You can see where the resist students are often very excited with the final results. They look great in a black and white frame. Look at this. Look at the detail of the eye. I love it. And the value here. You've got your light and your dark areas. Grade 4 students. Hope you enjoy doing this lesson with your students.